Mo dúpẹ́ Olúwa pé mo ní ọ láti máa sábà. Mo dúpẹ́ Olúwa pé mo ní ọ láti máa fọ̀rọ̀ lọ. Tí kò bá sí Jésù, ayé ìbá ti kẹ́rù mi sígbó. Tí kò bá sí Jésù, ayé ìbá ti kẹ́rù mi dànù. Mo yìn ọ́ o Jésù pé mo ní ọ láti máa sábà. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù pé mo ní ọ láti máa fọ̀rọ̀ lọ. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù pé mo ní ọ láti máa sábà. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù pé mo ní ọ láti máa fọ̀rọ̀ lọ. Tí kò bá sí Jésù, ayé ìbá ti kẹ́rù mi sígbó. Tí kò bá sí Jésù, ayé ìbá ti kẹ́rù mi dànù. Mo yìn ọ́ o Jésù pé mo ní ọ láti máa sábà. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù pé mo ní ọ láti máa fọ̀rọ̀ lọ. I'm grateful to God over and over and over and over again. You know, in fact, after the song, I just started thinking about something else to tell you guys. But I want to thank God over my health. I initially said I wanted to talk about how I got a job, but let me just talk about over my health. I remember when I was, I got married and I was pregnant of my son. So while I was pregnant, God gave me a scripture. It said, it's in Isaiah. It said, I would show Olashade how to. Okay, let me. Should I? I can't remember the scripture right now. Okay. So it's actually Isaiah chapter 42, verse 16. It says, I will lead blind Olashade in the way that she should go. I would guide her along unfamiliar paths. I will turn darkness into light before her. I will not forsake her. I will lead blind Olashade in the way that she should go. I would guide her. I will guide her along unfamiliar paths. I will turn darkness into light before her. I will not forsake her. So that scripture has been coming to my spirit. It came a lot to my spirit when each time I want to pray, I've always been a prayer person to the glory of God. Each time I want to pray, that scripture will come to my spirit. So I think guide along the unfamiliar path is the pregnancy I was. It's not a big deal to me, but to God, it's an unfamiliar path. Because with the benefit of hindsight, I think that was what God was saying. He said, I will lead blind Olashade in the way that she should go. I will guide her along unfamiliar path. I'll turn darkness into light before her, and I will not forsake her. So, whenever I pray, that scripture will just come and I will just recite it. I will just say, so, shortly before I gave birth, I slept and I dreamt about, I can't remember what, I didn't really dream, but I knew that I woke up, I'm an emotional, everybody has emotions, but I woke up sad. Fortunately for me, my husband was doing something on the table. So the light was on, the table lamp was on. So I woke up, I was telling him that I don't know the way that I was feeling somehow. I woke up sad. Ideally, I shouldn't wake up sad. I woke up sad. So I might not remember the dream, but I know that that's not the way I would normally wake up. Something, must have happened. So while I complained to my husband just discarded it. So I sat down on the chair. I was having self-pity for myself that my husband discarded it. My spirit just said, go outside, step outside and go and pray. I just went outside. So all the emotional stuff, I just poured everything on God. After all, I have an husband, I have God, he's my father. That's why you must always have a father. Yes, what your husband cannot do, your father can always do it for you. So I went outside and I just poured my emotion on God. I poured the way I was feeling. Because the truth is that God knows exactly. My husband is a human being, doesn't know what happened. But God knows exactly why I woke up sad. God knows what was. And there was a war. There was warfare. But I didn't know what it was. But it's just the emotional, the feeling that I had, that I knew something happened. You know, I knew I was feeling a certain way. I didn't know. God knew what was going on. So after I poured out my heart, I was okay. I was fine. So apparently, the devil wanted to, you know, I don't know what the devil wanted. The devil was planning. You know how he used to plan. Bible says that the devil has come to steal, to kill, and to destroy. He doesn't want us. He doesn't like us for anything. But God has come to give us life, and so that we can enjoy it abundantly. That's what the scripture says. The devil hates us. We are his enemy. So after the time, I just continued. You know, I felt okay. I felt light. So I continued my life. So one day like that, my younger sister just came to the room. I don't know, we're having challenges over something, and it was going to lead to a fight. Meanwhile, that was my immediate younger sister. So my second sister had a dream that something happened to my baby. But she did not tell me directly. She used to dream. Her dreams usually come to, but she didn't tell me directly. So when my immediate sister came, and my immediate sister was offering to fight, and you know, it's my immediate younger sister. Like, what audacity! I can't remember that I'm pregnant. Like, what audacity! Like, no, you know, now it's very humiliating now. So the next thing is that you want to jig it. So my second sister was in the bedroom. So she rushed out when she heard because we had started, but nothing much had happened. Like, why would you want to do first attack on me, my immediate sister? So my sister rushed out of the bedroom, my second sister. More like, she said, this is the dream that she had that is coming to reality. That's what Eju told me. See, this is the dream that she had that is coming to reality. She just rushed. And that's why, till today, she didn't support her, because it was like the dream that she had was coming to pass. So, you know, but the devil is just very foolish. I don't know what I did. As in, you know, concocting things to just mess himself up. And so then my husband too just finished the fast. My husband rushed out of the kitchen, like, what is about to happen? So my husband now separated us and saw her off to the gate, that she has to leave right away. She can't stay anymore. And she was actually challenging my husband. I want my husband, you know, blah blah blah. She left. So that happened, and I now started. So subsequently, whenever I pray about myself, about pregnancy, I pray through to my spirit. But whenever I pray about my son, there is warfare. I feel a resistance. And you know the meaning of that? You must pray through in your spirit. So, but whenever I pray about my baby, I felt a resistance. So, but I kept at it. I kept praying. So I prayed. I kept at it. You know, every day. It's not just one day. I kept at it. But with time, before I went to have my baby, I prayed through my spirit about myself. Pray through my spirit about my son, not just me. For me, it's been going well, but for my son, I feel some resistance. But I broke through the resistance as I prayed daily about the matter, because I'll pray about myself. Because a friend of mine told me that he said, he said you've been praying. He said, when you go to the hospital, he said the prayer you prayed will now become flesh. The prayer would have worked on the doctor that will attend to you. Prayer would have worked on the nurse. The prayer would, more like they are messengers. The prayer would go and prepare the ground. So that is exactly what happened. So eventually, I went to the hospital, and I was there. So I went on Valentine's Day. Then the next day, that's on the 15th, that was when my baby came. But before that happened, so I was in the hospital. They checked me. They said, oh, that I was close, and they brought me to the labor room. You know, they will be at the general ward. They brought me to the labor room. So while I was there, they checked. I was just there, and meanwhile, proud to my giving birth, I felt in my spirit I should memorize scriptures. I should memorize scriptures a lot, but I didn't memorize it the way I ought to. But I had some before. I love to memorize scriptures because it helps. It helps your brain. It helps boost your brain. I like it. So the ones I had, I didn't learn new ones. I ought to learn new ones before I went to the hospital to have my baby, as I was prompted by the Spirit of God. So while I was there, you will be feeling some pains. But whenever you shout, it appears when you shout, it takes away the pain. So instead of you shouting like a goat, you are better to read out, to speak out scriptures, like you are doing state. Oh, those states are correct. It's better you are reading out scripture, because you are shouting anyway. Everybody knows you are shouting. So why not shout out scriptures? So that was what I started doing. I started reciting scriptures, the one I know. Even if it is one or two, whatever, I kept recycling them and all that, such that people could hear. Because as you are talking, the pain is really, because it was actually painful. So I kept at that. I kept doing that. So one of the nurses came to my tummy. So one of the nurses came to me and she was feeling the pain. She was moved by my pains. So she wanted to help me. So she now said, she's been there feeling it and all that. So after like 40 minutes or 1 hour, she now said, let me help you. Let me help you break your water. So she moved and so maybe touched. I don't know. How did she even break my water? She touched my vagina and cut it. So the water she broke my water before the appropriate time. So meanwhile, you know that whenever you are in the labor room, they will put speaker. I don't know, there's this speaker that they put on your tummy, or on your chest, that they will be hearing the heartbeat of your son. So they've been hearing the heartbeat. But after he broke that water, the heartbeat of my son, the sound reduced, but I didn't know. Because I was in pain and I've not done one before. I was not even listening to the sound. I didn't know it has dropped. That means I probably wasn't listening. So, but I'm happy that the lady, and she's a Muslim girl, she was sensitive. She said, matron, she had noticed, did you notice that it appears the heartbeat of the baby reduced? The matron just communized. But it is still making sound, because she was distracted by some other guest with her. So she said, but it's still making sound. She just communized it. So the lady now waited for another 10 minutes or 15 minutes or more. She now said, let me give you another water. She said, I'm supposed to charge for this water or get. You said, but right now, this is very urgent. I just need to do it. She just went to get water and start passing it to my body. Then, you know, God just did things perfectly, because it was overnight. I had my baby. So she was this nurse that stayed. She was supposed to close by 6 o'clock. She was afternoon shift. So she was supposed to leave in the afternoon. And I had my baby by 6 o'clock. So do you know what she would have left? Even though she was the one that did the damage, she would have left. It will not be recorded to her account. Another, but I guess God just did something for me. So she did that. After changing the water, she now left. So the matron was still gisting with other people. She had forgotten me on the bed. At some point, the matron just said, "Eba me one more yet." Meanwhile, I've told after the Muslim lady left. I said, please come and check me. They said, he's not here already and all that. You know the way nurses used to do. So I didn't complain again, but I was just reciting my scripture and shouting. And so at some point, the matron just said, go and check that lady. Do you know that by the time they got to me, I was close. And I checked, and I said, rush out to the final place where I would deliver. They took me to the other room where you would deliver, the delivery room. So by the time I got there, they did all the paparazzi, and my son, they said I should do everything, you know what they do. And my son came out. And by the time my son came out, he wasn't crying. So apparently, the devil actually planned stuff, but obviously God rescued me. My son wasn't crying. They were now looking, running helter skelter. Where is oxygen? Where is oxygen? So they can put it in his nose. They said the last time they used oxygen, they don't know. I think they took it upstairs, blah, blah. They ran upstairs, going to look for oxygen. Eventually, God kept me. God kept my son. I don't know if they found the oxygen, but they just took my son somewhere. And then after 3 days or 4 days or something, my son was perfect. And both of us were okay. And eventually we came back home. That's how God delivered me. That was, God delivers his own. God delivers his children. That was how God delivered me again. I still have a lot to share with you. It pays to serve God. That's about day 5. Looking forward to tell you about this.